Pretty crazy.
All right.
All
Let's have
right. So, the first prompt is what qualities make a good leader and what qualities make a poor leader? In discussing this, please consider your texts, lectures, and your personal experiences. So,
You want to go first, Noah?
what? Sure. So, the text talks about like leadership, like the main things about leadership, and that it's about who you are, about how you act, what you do, and how you work with others. So, who you are as a good leader. So, it's basically just like kind of your what I would assume like just like natural leadership skills, like people skills, your extroverted, things like that. It just kind of depends on like your personality, who you are. Some people have personalities that are more bent toward leaders, whereas others have to kind of like work more for it. And then, so I would say like an extroverted person or someone that which is very assertive. That would be an example of someone um, that has a good personality for leadership. And then how they act. So, like an example of that would be for a good leader, um, just the way that they portray themselves, the way that not that they come across authoritative, to the sense where people will follow them and listen to them, but at the same time, like people will listen to them, but at the same time, not too overly aggressive, not rigid, not uncompassionate for the people that follow them. And so the third one was what you do. So as a leader, I think a very important quality is just like being organized, doing things like just keeping agendas, doing stuff like that, and also just having a caring attitude for your work and being passionate about it, so that other people can carry on in that. And then the fourth one was how you work with others. So I think that's super important in leadership because that's kind of the point. So I mean, just things like helping coworkers out when they're struggling, and not just tearing them down all the time, but being very encouraging, because a lot of people learn better that way. So those are ideas that I think go into a quality leader.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with you on the compassion part too. I think that leaders, at least I know I can tend to I have no problem being very assertive or I think getting things done, but I know I kind of tend to struggle with the compassion side and making sure that your team is taken care of and that they feel like they can trust you and that you're someone that they want to follow.
Right.
But at the same time, too, you got to be the bad guy, I think.
What do you
Like,
mean?
like when people aren't doing their jobs or when they're screwing off or whatever, I still think that, you need to have that stance that people know who to come to if there's an issue.
Yeah,
And
you
then,
definitely need to take initiative and be assertive as a leader. I mean, not everyone's leaders, but like the book said that you're not born as a leader, you can display characteristics as one. And I think that part that said who you are, how you act, what you do, all of that was really interesting because it actually does follow, being a leader does follow who you are and how you're acting towards your followers and why they want to follow you, why should they follow you or listen to what you're saying. So
Interesting. So what do you guys think, personally, leadership-wise? How so? Sorry, Jess. So Jess, you talked about how you seem to be a very, very assertive leader, very authoritative, but you struggle more with the relationship part of it. So
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I'm also taking management 303, which is really interesting because a lot of what we learned in this class and what we learned in that class kind of correlates. And we took this negotiator style type deal quiz.
Mm.
And I think it's important as a leader to be both assertive and compassionate. I think that they kind of need to go hand in hand. I think if you have too much of the one thing and not the other, then it's off balance.
Yeah.
But when I took that quiz, I found that I was high assertiveness and moderate cooperativeness, which I found kind of interesting because So I'm the director of Devilpalooza this year, which is just like a concert that we have, and I manage a staff of like 5 or 6 people. And there are times like I can find myself like I don't really understand why they don't do it right, or like why they're struggling to get things done, things like that, because in my mind as the director it's like you just need to get it done. This is a job, you said you'd get it done, you need to get it done on time, this is the deadline. Versus taking into consideration, you know, like we're all students, we all have things going on, they're not getting paid to do this, different things like that. I can, instead of being like compassionately trying to work with them, I'm just like, you have a deadline, you need to meet it, no excuses.
Okay. Cool.
So I definitely need to get better at leading with compassion of things.
Interesting. So for me personally, I'm like the totally opposite. My personality is just I'm very relational, very like I think like, and this goes both ways, because I mean like for me like I just like I'm so focused on like the people. I'm like, oh, I want to make sure that you're good, like everything's fine, but I struggle with like taking authority. And so what can happen is sometimes that's happened a lot of times like in leadership. So like I lead a group at Glendale Community College. It's a Christian group, and so I'm a staff there. So we just kind of work together. So I lead that whole group. And what happens is sometimes I'm not very authoritative, and like I'll just try to kind of blend in because I just want to be relational the whole time. What happens is that I try to tell someone to do, and they're like, oh no, like this is better, and I'm like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. I know what I'm talking about. But they look at people can view me as like less of a leader or less of that authoritative figure because I don't make that presence known. So I'm the total opposite, which is really funny. So I totally agree with you. You have to have that balance because it's just you could go one way or the other for you. So what do you guys think? For you guys?
I feel you on that. Like I'm definitely more of a relaxed leader. So I'm lacking the authoritative side of things, but I feel like definitely like Jessica has that balance, which is good because people listen to that.
Well, when I worked at ASU West for a while, and I did all the events that went on over there. I was the manager. I managed all the events and set them all up. And one of the biggest things that you learn is you got to help people. And you got to be part of the event too. You got to help them out and help them set up. And if you're cool with me, I'm cool with you, kind of thing. But at the same time, they got to know if they mess up, you got to bring it to their attention and work together to figure out a solution to the issue. And I think that's one of the biggest things and the hardest things to do as a leader. I don't know.
Definitely. And the chapter talked about all different kinds of leaders. So I think that like even if you're not like that like authoritative, I still think that people will still like listen to you, but there's just different ways of going about it.
Mm-hmm. I think it was really interesting also how the book talked about how it talked about the different kinds of leaders. I don't know if it was necessarily chapter 1, but I remember it talking about how like there's there's different leadership types and how like sorry that like the original approach was like trait leadership. And so people were determined leaders by who they were, like just born characteristics. I thought it was really interesting in the book. They're talking about how that was a very, they think they've had a lot more research now, and they show that leadership more or less, comes more from just experience and a developed skill rather than something you're born with. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that is true, I think.
So the second part of the prompt is what qualities make for a poor leader. When you read the text, they give a lot of different things, but I think one of the biggest things that they hit on was selfishness. I think that's definitely like a big thing that can determine a leader from a follower, because leaders are always like leaders are generally successful people, and I think to be successful and also be like absolutely selfless is kind of hard to go hand in hand. I feel like they kind of, when you are super successful, you want to be more selfish to get yourself further ahead to do these different things. So, and leaders don't, which I think is definitely, a good side of leadership is to be selfless. And I think a big thing that can hinder a leader is being selfish.
Yeah, definitely. What do you guys think?
Oh yeah, you can't just be all out for yourself. You gotta have the other people all on the same page for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but in group work, I feel like, I don't know if you're a leader and you're selfish, then you kind of just want the group to do well. You don't really like. I don't know, if you're in a group, you're not gonna be selfish and just want yourself to do well because you know that it's like a whole group thing. So.
Right, it becomes
I don't
like a
think,
one person.
being selfish, I don't think is the worst characteristic that a leader like project.
You
Well,
said
as long
it
as you're
wasn't the
involved.
word? Kayla, you said it wasn't the worst?
Not, I mean, I don't know. Being like in a group, I can't really think of any times that I've had a leader that I thought was selfish. But like in a group, I feel like if they're like selfish, then they just want their group to do better.
Interesting.
True. I guess it could be seen that way.
Yeah.
Which one did you find to be the worst?
Um.
There's like incompetent, rigid, intemperate, corrupt.
Probably corrupt.
Yeah.
Corrupt your evil.
That's pretty horrible.
I think the evil one was like use or something like that.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to follow like an evil leader. But
Yeah.
Follow the Hitler.
No Hitler.
Yeah, that would be a bummer.
I'd say for me, like for a normal, like usual leaders that I've dealt with that aren't like evil, I'd say probably the biggest one for me that I tend to have a hard time dealing with is very callous people. Incompetent, usually like I don't see as bad because I mean like the followers can help the leader, they just kind of need someone to look to sometimes. So even if someone's incompetent, you can still respect the leader and kind of give input and stuff and help them out. Whereas like callous, it's just very, they're very stone-hearted. They don't really care. I had a boss like that when I was in high school, and he just like no matter what you did, no matter like how you were doing it, it was always wrong, and he was always right, and it was just like, but it wasn't just that. He would tear you down for every single thing. And so I came into work like dreading coming to work. Until I eventually quit. So it was like, you're just going to drive people away from that if you're really just callous and not caring at all, period. So what do you guys think? What do you think is your worst?
Oh yeah, just leaders that don't care, or just lackadaisical, and they just don't have you got to have that not really compassion, but you still got to care for the people that you're working with. And like I was saying before, treat them all as one, and help each other out. I think that's the best way to do it. And if there's an issue, you guys talk together and try to resolve it in one way or another, if it's possible.
Right. So Jess, did you say selfish was yours?
Yeah.
Okay. So what bad quality? So we've all kind of been in some leadership role at some point. What quality do you think that most associates with you, poor and bad, or poor and good?
I think patience. If you can find somebody that's real patient with everybody, and that is kind of outgoing, and it's pretty vocal, not a shy, reserved person, I think that's a big step forward.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree. I think patience is definitely like something that you need to have when you're a leader, just because everyone has different schedules, there's different things going on. Like that's actually really important. But then I think if you're too patient and you're too lenient, you might come off as not authoritative.
Yeah. I think for me, my best and worst attribute, I think that my best one is that I'm assertive and I do communicate very, very clearly what it is that I want. But at the same time, I'm not very good with conflict resolution. I can sit there and tell you you need to get this done, but when it doesn't get done, I'm not good at figuring it out past it. Or I guess I'm learning with this whole Devilpalooza experience that I'm learning how to figure out how to resolve conflicts once they don't respond to the assertiveness. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think for me, I think mine I am very relational, and I'm very just constantly pouring into the students I have at the group. and stuff like that. Just trying to make sure everybody is satisfied in the group, everybody's good, everybody's emotional needs are met, stuff like that. So I think that's a good part of my leadership. I think a bad part is honestly the cognitive errors. I can make not smart decisions sometimes. Maybe I just don't think something through, or I
That's
thought
the joys of being human.
and so so it's I think that's one thing I can really work on is probably just like collecting my thoughts better and organizing. I think that's a big part. Is just my organization is really bad. So organizing myself, like my room, for instance, and then work my way into my head, and then just making that overall in my leadership.
Definitely. Does anybody have anything else they want to say about chapter 1 and 2, and then we can move on to 3 and 4?
How long has this been so far?
About 15 minutes.
Oh, cool.
So we're good.
Yes.
Cool.
Want to move on?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
All right, so chapter 3 and 4 prompt. As this week's readings and lectures focused on the various approaches to studying leadership, please discuss which perspective or approach made the most sense to you. In considering the approaches and theories presented, think about your own beliefs about leadership and how leaders can motivate followers to achieve goals.
Well, since I have it up here, I thought the situational approach was important to know, mainly because it says it's also considered the contingency approach. So I think in order to be a good leader, you got to be a good problem solver. And part of being a good problem solver is seeing problems before they happen, I think, or at least trying to see them. And also what else was it? And finding different strategies for when issues occur and what different things happen. I think was a good model.
Cool. Yeah, I thought situation was really interesting because he was talking about how when an emergency happens, who's the first person to say, okay, you call 911, you do this, and it's it's interesting how do you guys think that's more of a trait, like a personality trait that goes into that leadership, or something else?
I think it's organization.
I feel like situational is really important because you're thinking on your feet, and I don't think that everyone can display situational leadership. I just think that sometimes you're born with it. I mean, you can try to learn it, but if you're you have a mind that can think on your feet, then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the situational approach the best as well. I think that a good leader not only needs to be able to read every situation and know that they're different, but also everyone that they ever work with. I think knowing how to empower all different types of people, because not everyone follows the same methods of leaderships or responds well, I guess, to the same styles of leadership all the time. So I think the situational approach and how it talked about you not only have to be a good leader, but you have to be versatile and flexible when you lead, because every group that you get is going to be totally different with different expectations and different ways that you're going to have to manage.
Cool. Yeah, I agree with the book that the trait approach is probably the worst. That leaders are just who they're born to be, and that just because you may have some leadership qualities, your personality doesn't mean that you are a quality leader. Just because you're assertive, versus just only assertive, doesn't mean that you may not have all the other leadership qualities that come through experience and development of skills.
Yeah, I agree. The traits approach is kind of interesting because it's there is a correlation between tall men generally tend to have more leadership qualities, like you said, than most people, but just because there's a correlation there, I don't think it means it causes it. I don't think because you are a tall man that just makes automatically every tall guy is oh, we're great leaders. I think that it's common to see a friend in that, but I don't think it's the cause or the root of why they're a good leader.
Definitely. All right, so two things I noticed the text was talking about. It says that leaders should be creative and transformational. And one of the things that kind of landed under transformational was this idea of vision and how leaders should have a good vision for whatever they're doing. And the example that I usually think of when I think of vision is the person I'm using for my leadership interview thing. And his name is Brad. He's my boss, and he's just so good at casting vision. For instance, like his main vision for us is that he wants to have an effective group on every single college campus in Arizona, which is like a crazy goal because that's just like a lot of schools like Thatcher and Prescott that we just don't have the people for. But it's a cool, like, he's very good at casting that vision, and then every decision we make is woven into the fabric of trying to make that vision happen, if that makes sense. And so every decision we make, every action, every little step is a pointing direction into that vision. And so that's one way he trained me, was just like, have a vision for your students, stuff like that. So for me, like, I'm going to be leaving GCC next semester, going to ASU Tempe to lead over there. So one thing I'm trying to do here is that we might not have a staff at GCC, so I'm trying to get some students together to make them self-sustaining. And so my vision for them is like, okay, guys, like, you may not have an actual leader or staff person there, and so I want to train you guys so that you guys can be self-sustaining. So the whole time they know every decision we make, every meeting, every leadership encounter, everything we're doing is to build us so that we can be self-sustaining. So I think that's so important. It's important to share that vision. I had a staff member before me that had a vision and wouldn't share with me, and so I felt like I was leading, but I didn't know what to lead for because I didn't know where I was going. So what do you guys think about vision?
Well, vision's huge. I think it also goes into innovation too. If you think of like Netflix or Amazon or anything, you got to always be updating things and coming out with new products or doing things like that. And that's what a good leader does in any situation, really, I think.
I think vision directly links with creativity. I feel like good leaders have a lot of options. They have a lot of ideas open for whoever's
freedom.
So.
Yeah, I think in general, managers and leaders are definitely more the big picture kind of people. I think leaders and managers, they can see it. They have the big picture, and then like I think the hardest part for them is like relaying that picture, like relaying that image, like you were saying, Noah, with your boss and how he wants to reach every every school in Arizona. Like that is like such a big vision that he has, and then it's like relaying it to others and like making sure that they also follow the same vision.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like leaders always have the same end goal, but then there's just so many different ways of getting to it. Like how you say with your boss.
Yeah, and I like how you guys brought up innovative, because actually, it's funny. So my boss, like, he's just this leader that I look up to. I'm like, whoa. But he has this quote that he loves, and he says, if you don't do anything different, nothing will change. And so I think that's huge when it comes to innovation, is that like if you're not seeing results, if you keep doing the exact same thing, you're never going to see more results. It's just always going to be the same thing. So I'll let you guys talk about innovative and how like sometimes you need to switch things up. Like you said, Netflix. Like Netflix is always updating itself. It's always adding new things, taking new risks. Because every show or movie that Netflix adds, they have to pay for that. So they're making an investment. But they know if they just keep the exact same stuff or go in the exact same pattern, eventually it will die. And I think that's why so many very big companies succeed, is that they take quality risks that work toward their organization.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, too. If you think about any small company even or anything like that, just because it worked for Grandpa doesn't mean it'll work for you.
Yeah.
Word.
Another quality that I thought was a really good one under transformational leaders is empowerment. I know, the person that I'm interviewing for my leadership interview is Ben. He's my advisor for PAB, and he's definitely someone where I go and ask a question, or I'll have concerns and all these different things, and every response is, like it's your event, like you have the car keys, you take off, like you drive, this is your thing. And as scary as that is sometimes, like it's given me the confidence, I think, to make better decisions and to think on my feet a lot quicker versus just, ask the advisor. And so I think empowering people to do their job and to make sure that they're feeling like they do a good job is extremely important with leadership.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that that goes a lot into like the democratic style of leadership that the text talked about. How you still are an authoritative figure, but you allow your followers to lead in certain ways. And so that's what it sounded like. Is that instead of like an authoritative approach where it's just like, okay, just ask the advisor for everything and he does all the rules and we just kind of mindlessly follow him. He allows you guys to lead. So I think that's really cool that he does that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that kind of leads with like confidence. Being like that kind of leader, like you have to make all of your followers confident that they can go on their own, they can lead themselves.
For sure.
Cool. Did you guys have any other qualities that stuck out to you at all, or?
Not really. I didn't. I think we got a lot of them
Cool.
I can think of.
So part of the prompt too is how can leaders motivate followers to achieve goals? So what do you guys think is the best way for leaders to motivate their followers and like constantly motivate them even when the work gets tough or they get tired or burn out? Like how do you think motivating is best done?
I think just constantly bringing up the end goal and like how much they're going to like get away from the end goal and keeping their confidence up is like a pretty good characteristic that leaders display.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also appreciation, I think, because if you're trying to get this goal, however hard it may be, which it most likely is, otherwise it wouldn't be a goal. You show appreciation, do something for everybody else, as maybe a thank you or just anything you can do at all. Taking them out to dinner, maybe I don't know, giving them a little bonus if you can. Just showing appreciation for everybody's hard work is a huge thing.
Yeah, I think for me, I think empowerment, like you were talking about, Jess, is huge into that because when a follower feels empowered, they feel like they have an ownership of this vision or this task or this organization. So when they have that empowerment, they feel like, okay, people rely on me for this job. Like I'm not just some mindless person that can be replaced just like that. I'm someone that's very functional, very necessary to the flow of this whole thing. And so when you empower followers, it's very motivating to them because then they become just self-motivated. The fact that they're just like, okay, now I feel like I really want to give to this thing instead of just like feeling like they have to.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think another big thing is incentives. So Garrett, kind of like you were saying, if you here's our main end goal, but if you reach these little goals along the way, then there's like like essentially a prize or whatever at the end, like a little bonus or, like a staff luncheon or something like that. I think incentivizing people to want to achieve smaller things helps them kind of keep pushing to see results. Is there anything else that you guys want to say about chapter 3 or 4? I think we're good on our time.
I'm good.
Yeah, I think
I can think of right now.
What?
Cool.
No, I'm good. I'm good to go.
All right. Well, this was fun.
Yeah.
Your job's the best.
Alright.
Are we gonna do Tuesday at 4 next week?
I'm sorry?
Are we gonna do Tuesday at 4 next week? Now that we know how to do this.
Yeah, that's fine.
Tuesday 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can talk after the broadcast, too.
Okay. Sounds good.
So I'll end it.
Yes.
Bye.